Hey there, everybody. For those of you that are listening recorded, I'll chit-chat for a minute while we wait for any live viewers to jump on board. I'm doing a little bit of traveling today. Fortunately was fix that tie. Fortunately was at a funeral. And thank you, appreciate that. I want to chat for a few minutes on this whole Benchmade business. Sometimes I jump in on these discussions, sometimes I don't. And thank you. Here's the thing. I put this up on our excuse me, our Instagram account in a live feed that I left up there. So if any of you follow us on IG or you've already heard me talk about this, I apologize. I figured I'd do one here because we can leave this up. Now, before we talk about the Benchmade thing, I want to first get our minds wrapped around a few ideas that I think are important for us to keep top of mind while we discuss this. So what are those topics? One, why would a police department need to destroy weapons? Let's think about that. Well, PDs across the United States, from major cities like Chicago, near where I live here, or small local police departments of towns of 1,000 people, they have evidence lockers. Those evidence lockers fill up with stuff. At some point, that stuff has to be removed, especially if it's no longer needed for court proceedings. Well, even myself, I was arrested once in my life, and the police took my pocket knife. I never saw that knife again. That doesn't mean that I'm saying it was right that I never saw it again, but something had to happen to that property. Now, some folks are saying, well, the police should have sold those guns or somehow disseminated them to the public. Let's be logical. In order to do that and make it legal, it would have to be some type of fair and open system where the public could have access to bid on or purchase. That being said, that would cost 10, 20, 30, 50 times more than those weapons are actually worth. Okay? Now, wait a minute. This is not an anti-Benchmade discussion here, and I'm going to get to it. So let's first understand why a police department would need to destroy stuff. Okay, so now that they have to destroy some stuff, destroy in the sense of why are they destroying it? Because it's their responsibility. They can't just toss these things in the garbage, nor can the local cops just take them home. Guys have done that, got caught, and not only lost their job, but gone to jail because it's stealing. So it costs money to destroy products. So here's a company, a local company, that does it for free for the police department. Well, what does that mean? It means it's saving the taxpayers some money, right? It's saving the taxpayers some bread, which I think is pretty great. I'm going to get to your donated to anti-gun bullshit too. So first thing, and this isn't me protecting Benchmade, I know nobody there. I'm a big proponent of rational thought. So first thing, understand why a police department would need to destroy anything. They could have old office equipment. They can't just give the stuff away because it's public property, and there's ways to go about that. That's another discussion, though. Item 2, why would it make a company bad for helping out a local police agency? So we have this idea, another thing that you need to keep in mind while having this discussion. You need to remember that government is made up of you and me. We the people. My local police agency, my local sheriff's office works for me. That doesn't mean that I get to go in and tell the police chief or the sheriff what to do, but they work for me. They are upholding the laws that me and my neighbors create in our locale. That's a pretty powerful thing. I've helped elect sheriffs. Our local sheriff, I helped run his campaign, which means that in essence, I can help somebody else run against him if I don't like the policies. So, excuse me, I'm getting over a cold here. Some more food for thought. Those police departments are merely upholding the laws that we the people created. Well, I don't like or subscribe to those laws. Well, your neighbors still created those laws, so if you don't like them, and those laws perhaps are unconstitutional, then do something about it. That's the second point. Keep that in mind. So now, one of the things it irks me, man. It freaking digs a hole in my heart when I see young men, and I'm gonna talk to young men because young men have great potential. So do young women, but I'm talking to young dudes right now. Great potential, and oftentimes it's misdirected through a lack of education on a subject. So let's just say that this company donated to a Democrat. Who gives a flying shit? If you understand the process of how government works, there are many corporations that donate to many candidates, and there's reasons for that. And you know what? I have some great friends who are Democrats. Did you know that the Illinois concealed carry bill that became our law was drafted by State Representative Phelps? Did you know that Phelps is a Democrat? Did you hear what I just said? The Illinois Concealed Carry Act was drafted by a Democrat. So we have a notion where if somebody doesn't bear the moniker of Republican or Libertarian, that all of a sudden they must be anti-freedom. And that's not true. And this isn't me talking about like pro-democracy or pro-democratic party. It's let's be pro-thought. So what really happened here is the same thing that most of the gun community likes to bitch about from the liberal media. Most of the gun community, the industry, they like to complain when the liberal media shares content that doesn't put us in a good light. And they say, oh, it's fake news, man. The liberal media is trying to brainwash us. How is it any different when somebody grabs onto a piece of information about this, like Benchmade company, for example, and you get out there and you're dumping stuff on Facebook, you're tweeting, you're sharing on Instagram about this company being some total anti-constitutional piece of garbage? You're proliferating fake news. You are promoting a totalitarian, Stalinist way of thinking. You don't agree with me, thus I will crush you by just smearing you. That is like the heart of racism. That's really what that is. You don't agree with me, thus I will crush you. Well, somebody brought up to me, how do you know those guns were confiscated from crimes? They were probably part of a voluntary buyback program. And I thought, did you hear what you just said? A voluntary buyback program. That means maybe somebody didn't want the guns. Maybe somebody didn't appreciate or need the guns. Maybe it was an old gun that was a turd that they knew that they were going to get more money for walking it into a police station. Who cares? You know, who cares? If somebody decides, my truck, if I want to roast the tires off and you don't like roasting tires, tough luck. If I want to go buy dinner and eat 2 bites and throw it all in the garbage, that's my business, not yours. If a person wants to take a firearm and turn it in through a voluntary buyback channel, people bring up other social media accounts. Those other accounts can post whatever they want. Here's something that I have put out, and I said this on our chat on Instagram. I'm not a fucking smart guy, pardon my language. I barely graduated from high school. I've been self-employed for years. I grew up as a carpenter. I've been on both sides of the law. I've stood with my hat in hand in front of a judge. I have stood at a pulpit in front of judges delivering an address to thousands of people. I have made grave mistakes and I have had great successes in life. As such, I know, don't respect people because of what you see. Respect them because of what they do. Where I'm going with that is, I'm not a lawyer. I don't pretend to be one. I don't know everything about the Constitution, but I know some things about it. I don't know everything about making change, but I know some things about it because I've actually done it and been involved in it. I will stand on a stage with anybody that wants to have a discussion on this. Not anybody, because I'm not going to waste my time with somebody that's not going to provide value. If somebody wants to have a discussion that they feel is meaningful and they want to debate me on this, thank you. I'll have that discussion. If you want to do it in a live format on Instagram or on YouTube, I will do that. If you want to record a podcast with me, or I'll go on your podcast, I will do that. Sometimes people said, oh, you're only doing that because you want to like get on some other guy's YouTube channel. I could give two shits. I don't want to get on some guy's YouTube channel to have a discussion about that which I already know. So somebody said to me today, you sound like somebody that supports the NRA. Yeah, I'm a life member of the NRA. I'm a life member of the NRA. Well, why? Why? They don't support freedom. Well, that's not true. And anybody that would say that is talking out their ass. Well, Mickey, why would you say that? What data do you have? Well, I challenge you guys to do this. You young men, seekers of truth, you men that hold up the Constitution as the Bible of our great land, you men that wish to proliferate and protect the liberty that was handed to you as a birthright, I challenge you to go research the history of firearms laws in the United States. Do some real research. Real research is not poking around on the internet and reading AR15.com. Real research, and I'm not knocking AR15.com. Real research is not reading or watching a few YouTube channels. Real research is looking at court cases. Real research is looking at when laws were enacted and how they were enacted and who enacted them. Real research is looking at how laws are repealed. Real research is looking at who are the people that repealed the laws. Yeah, it shall not be infringed. Yawn, yawn. That, my friend, is a great way of saying I don't care enough to fully understand the entire topic. Now, shall not be infringed? 100% agree. But guess what? Pounding our chest and reciting a sentence over and over again doesn't change hearts and minds. Pounding your chest and reciting a sentence over again is not what moves people to action. It is not how laws are enacted or repealed. So once you understand that, let's step off that sophomoric soapbox, and actually begin to engage in some type of dialogue that is meaningful, that will actually affect some kind of change. So let's go back to the big picture. So I'm involved in the gun community, but I don't look at it like that. I look at what I do as educating people about how to live good lives. And who am I to say that? I'm nobody. What I am is a guy that's lived about the shittiest life you could live and a guy that lives a pretty darn amazing life. And so I kind of have an understanding what it takes to do both. I also, in that short time that I've been on Earth, I've had the ability to understand through practice, not through talking, but through practice, that we can affect great levels of change in the world around us if we decide to do it. You can become pretty much whatever you want. You can create pretty much whatever you want. Caveat is, are you willing to carry the load that will make whatever that thing is happen? I think some of you guys have heard me talk about this before. I don't want to cover the same ground over and over again, but we've helped run political campaigns and been very successful at it. We've beat candidates that we should have never beat. I was the vice chairman of a political party, which I don't care about politics. I bring it up only because I'm trying to paint a picture of where I'm drawing this knowledge. I'm not a guy that shoots guns on the internet and is talking out of my ass out of emotion. One of the things I brought up on Instagram earlier is emotions are great. Emotions, guys, are telling you something about what's going on inside of you, about what's going on here, what's going on here. But I cannot base all of my outward actions on my emotions. A good case in point would be, I'm driving down the road right now and somebody does something in traffic to upset me. Maybe they cut me off in kind of a dangerous way, where I have to like hit the brakes real hard. That would cause most of us to get a rush of anger, right? You feel your blood pressure pump up, and Now, that's emotion. I feel that emotion of anger. I've got choices, though. I can pull up to that car and I can lay on my horn. I can flick them off. I can scream at them out the window. I can call them names. I can threaten them. I could show them my concealed carry weapon. I could shoot at them. Of course, these are all like an escalation of all things I shouldn't do, right? Or the other thing I could do is I could realize, hey, that person screwed up. They may or may have not known they've screwed up, but I'm going to continue my day. And I wish I always could do it that way. But I'm saying we have choices in how we respond to our emotions. So people see things about this Benchmade stuff, and they get a rush of anger because they feel like their liberty, their rights are at stake. And they act on that emotion. They act on that emotion and they immediately want to tell somebody that they're angry. I'm angry and I want to tell you why I'm angry, and I want to tell you, I'm going to give you a what for, because this is bullshit. But maybe your anger is misdirected. Did you see? Maybe if we took that anger that we feel is valuable, maybe if we took that anger that we feel is well placed and we started to point it where we actually need it to go. My buddy Z, he has a really good saying. You know, it's good to have close friends that you can bounce stuff off of. If sometimes I'm having something I'm wrestling with, you know, I might call my buddy Z and I'm like, hey man, let me throw something at you and just, you know, get a sounding board. I want to hear what another man with life experience, what he thinks. You know, am I crazy for thinking this? And oftentimes we both arrive at the same conclusion, whatever the thing may be. Hey man, you need to get back on your sights. And why we like this analogy, why I like this analogy that Z shared with me long ago, because we're shooters, right? Well, what happens when you're shooting and you're missing, or you are in the midst of some type of firing process and you're not hearing the steel ring, or you're not seeing the holes appear where you want? Oftentimes you start looking over your gun. You start listening for the ring of the steel, or looking for that hole in the paper, instead of doing what? Getting behind that gun, getting a good sight picture, getting a good grip, and pressing the trigger straight to the rear. See your sights, man. Get back on the sights. Don't think about what's going on that you don't like. Don't think about what's going on that's not giving you the result. Get back on your sights and do the things that you need to do to get the result that you desire. In the context of shooting, it's getting the hit. In the context of winning at life, it's getting on the sights and doing the things that you need to do to get the results you want. If you don't like what's going on around you legislatively, it may require you to step miles out of your comfort zone, and actually do something that you might find hugely uncomfortable, something that you may have no experience doing, something that you may not want to do because it takes you away from your family. This is why I get upset when I hear people bash on the NRA. Look, I'm not a guy that says everything NRA does is perfect, and I'm not going to go down that road right now because it's not pertinent. We can have that discussion another time. But what I will say is, most of the people that I've worked with at our Capitol, at local town hall meetings, at city hall meetings, at county board meetings, at school board meetings, people that are there educating the public on behalf of NRA or Illinois State Rifle Association or Illinois Carry or our group, McHenry County Right to Carry, which I preside over. People that are there, they're not getting paid. They're there out of the love of country, out of the love of liberty. And then I see people have the audacity to bash an organization that's made up of volunteers who are out there giving of their time, out there giving of their most precious resource, which is time, away from family. Just I can use myself as an example. Every time I drive to our state capitol, it costs me a couple $100. Fuel, lodging, every time. Every time. I've gone down there dozens of times. Every time I go, it costs me hundreds of dollars. And the people that are coming from other organizations, it costs them too. Yet I see too many young men that they have emotion that's driving them to say and do certain things, but it's misdirected. First of all, keep in mind, your ability to carry a firearm around with a concealed carry permit is something new. There were laws enacted as far back as the late 1700s banning the ability to carry a concealed weapon in the United States. These laws are new. If you don't like the law and you think that the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, the Second Amendment, should be the only law, then work to change that. Legislation usually doesn't just happen like chopping a tree down. You don't just chop a bunch, the tree falls over and it's done. It's more like tearing down a wall, brick by brick, each brick down, and you're happy when a brick goes in. The thing is, though, is there's people that may disagree with you, and they're picking bricks up and they're mortaring those bricks up and they're slipping them back in the wall. It is work. There are way too many young men that tout their love for guns as love for freedom. That's different, guys. Because you love shooting guns and going out to the range and going out to the desert or out to the woods or out to the farm and blowing shit up with your guns, that's not the same as loving liberty. That's loving guns. And your ability to go out and shoot your guns is protected by liberty, which is protected by somebody else that's been doing work on your behalf. It is not owed to you, friends. Never in the course of our nation was liberty owed to you. Do you understand that? So the guy earlier that said shall not be infringed, why did I jump on you? Because I want you to understand that is not owed to you. It's not owed to you. It never was owed to you. Some men that you never met, penned that Constitution. They sat and they poured through the writings of men like Locke and Cicero. They poured through those writings and they crafted what they thought would be the most perfect way of codifying a system of rules to live by. Rules that allowed us to be free and exercise our free will, but rules that also protected us from overgrowth of government, and rules that protected us from criminal predation. If you don't understand that, you can't just cite the words of the Bill of Rights if you don't understand it. They are hollow words. You have to understand that those men that signed their name to that declaration, they weren't doing it so they could go shoot their muskets at pop cans. They were signing their very life away. They were signing their death warrant so that you and I today could enjoy the liberty that we have. I speak on this from time to time to you guys because it should stir your young guts. It should stir your old guts. It should move you to the point that if you're not doing something, you should feel shame. And that shame should spur you to action. Why shame? Why should I feel shame? Because somebody carried a load in your stead. Somebody carried a burden in your place. That is why you cannot just recite sentences to me or to anybody without fully grasping the gravity of what those sentences mean, without fully grasping the gravity of what it meant for those people to draft those sentences, to draft those papers. Excuse me. It is at the very least, it is irresponsible of you. At the very least, it is disingenuous. And on the high end of the spectrum, it is dereliction of duty as a United States citizen. You are derelict in your duty as a citizen of the United States, my opinion, if you do not understand and appreciate these things. I've said this before to you. As you talk about this stuff with your friends, if you don't talk about this stuff with your friends, it should tell you that you need new friends. If you do talk about this stuff with your friends, and one or two of you decide to have tears roll down your face, that's not a bad thing, friends. You are alive in this nation because somebody carried a burden in your stead. Don't you get that? Don't you appreciate what that means? So to pound your chest and say shall not be infringed, but not be willing to do something to protect and promote and proliferate that which was handed to you for free, your words mean nothing to me. Your words mean zero to me. And they should mean nothing to you. You should hear what I'm saying, not because I'm the guy saying it, but because the words are accurate. Not because I'm the one that's saying it. That's not the point. The words are accurate because they're truth, not my truth, the truth. I'm careful to tell you that because I don't want to come off as if I'm passing on something that's known only to me. It's not. It angers me, guys. It angers me when there's people that have a voice through social media and they use it to tear down. They have a voice for social media and they use it to try to point out what they see is not right, but they provide no solution. I don't care what your channel is all about. So you're all about shooting guns. But all you want to do is spout off why other organizations are doing things you don't like. I challenge you to go do something. I challenge you to go do something that changes it. So rather than bitch about what Benchmade is doing, which they've done nothing wrong. And guess what? If Benchmade wants to donate money, don't buy their guns anymore. If you don't want to buy knives, their knives anymore. If you don't want to buy knives from an organization that made a contribution to a Democratic lawmaker, then don't buy their knives anymore. Done. That's easy. It's not hard. It's not hard. I wouldn't tear them apart, though. I wouldn't. It's a witch hunt. It's a witch hunt because people now, they want to be right, and it's no different than a witch hunt for when a liberal goes after a Second Amendment loving person. It's the same thing, and that's the problem. That's the problem with liberty, is it goes both ways. If you can't accept somebody else having a set of views different than your own, then you really don't care about liberty. What you care about is totalitarianism. You want them to feel and think the same way you do. You want your way to be the only way. That takes maturity to sort out. When I was a young man, I couldn't have talked about some of these things. I'm getting choked up talking to you about them because this should be the most important thing in your life. Why would I say that? Why would he say that? What about religion? You have no free place to exercise religion like we do here. I mean, there are places in this world that are first world countries where even what I'm saying now is a crime. You get what I'm saying? More important than family. How can you be saying that? It can't be more important than family. The road I'm driving on right now, I take my kids on bike rides when they were little. Without the Constitution that protects us, without this great nation that we live in, my family, what do they have? What do we leave them? Well, what about your wife? I love her more than anything, but if I can't stand up for what I believe in, then who am I? Who did she marry? If I'm a coward and I keep my mouth shut because I'm afraid of some ignorant people writing something on YouTube, there'll be some comments on here that people don't like what I have to say. There'll be some comments. People write they don't like the sound of my voice. That makes the two of us. But if you as a man don't stand up for the things that you believe in, you're not any kind of man at all. Just because you have hair in your armpits, young dudes, just because you've got some muscles growing because testosterone, your glands decided to start pumping testosterone out, that doesn't make you a man. That might make you strong. Doesn't make you a man. Start doing what you believe in. Start standing for what you believe in spite of what others might say. I'm sick of it. I am sick. It's a bully mentality. What I saw the last few days from, quote, gun owners, end quote, from, quote, freedom lovers, end quote, it's a bully, it's a mob. That's exactly the word. It's a mob mentality. Mob. It's a mob mentality. Do you guys think that our founding fathers agreed on everything? They surely didn't, if you think that. They surely did not agree. This is a big picture kind of a discussion that we're having here. Later when I'm done, I'll go back and I'll read through some of your comments. Because I'm driving, I clearly cannot read them. What are you going to stand up for? Some of you guys have worn the uniform for our armed services. You stood up for something. You swore an oath to uphold and protect the Constitution, and an oath to guard the people and the lands of our United States from all enemies, foreign and domestic. Thank you for doing that. Well, sometimes domestic, we have this notion that domestic must be some regime. Sometimes a domestic threat might be what lies in your own heart or mind. Sometimes that threat might be your buddies and their inability to see what is. Sometimes doing the right thing might be standing up and speaking truth. Sometimes it might be speaking truth. You know, here's a thing I get sometimes. Well, Mick, how can everybody be wrong about NRA? It's not that everybody's wrong about NRA. It's that I don't have to agree with all of their erroneous viewpoints. You cannot take dozens of years of awesome work and throw it out the window because you don't agree with some policy. I mean, you can do it. I think it's ignorant. It's kind of like when I screw up with my wife and she doesn't just divorce me, because there's a bunch of other great things that I've done in my life. Just like her, if she pisses me off, I don't say I'm divorcing you, because there's a million other great things that my wife does that outweigh whatever silly thing that might upset me. We're imperfect. Organizations are imperfect because organizations are made up of people. And we have to remember that. I want to be better. I want to do better. In order for me to do better and be better, I have to try harder. I have to look deeper. I have to dig deeper. And you, I think, should do the same thing. The ultimate expression of freedom is to protect freedom. That is the ultimate expression of freedom. The ultimate expression of freedom, sorry, friends. The ultimate expression of freedom is not to go blow a bunch of ammo off into a berm. The ultimate expression of freedom is not to write poems or to stand in a pulpit and orate. Of freedom is to live in a place where you can protect and proliferate freedom. See, if you do not see that, if you see sentences in your head, shall not be infringed, you don't get it, my friends. You young dudes are not grasping it. Some of you old dudes, if you're not seeing it, you need to work on seeing it. And that's why I said, go educate yourself. Because without that education, you cannot see. There are people that think the earth is flat. Well, guess what? Data says otherwise. And they refuse to look at data. If you don't look at that data, the data that surrounds what makes us who we are, you will not fully appreciate why and how we came to be. I want that for you. I want you to have a great understanding of it. I want you to feel a burning in your guts, man. I want you to feel tears well up when you talk about this, because you know it is the most important thing in your life as an American citizen, greater than your religion, because without it you would have no free place to worship, greater than your family, because without it you would have no safe place to raise your family, greater than your spouse or your loved ones, because without it there would be no safe space with which to love. How can people not see that? Yet we fixate on things like a fucking bump stock. That breaks my heart. It breaks my heart. Now, if I said that, and some of you are like, Mick, you don't see the big picture. It's a slow erosion of liberty. Of course I understand what you're saying, but you're wrong. How can I say that? How can I say that you're wrong? Because it's a brick wall, friends. We take a brick out, we put some bricks in. We take a few bricks out, we put some bricks in. That's pretty much how this works. And in the big scheme of things, it's incumbent upon you, the individual, to educate yourself in a way that you are a good steward of what was handed to you. You are a good steward of a sacrifice of thousands and thousands and thousands of lives, a sacrifice of thousands of lives on this soil and on others. A good steward of that which was given to you, but you didn't deserve. You know, some of us that are old enough to have kids, or maybe you did it. Did you ever tell your parents, I didn't ask to be born? As a parent, I know I said that to my mother or father before. It's got to break their heart. How selfish a thing to say. You didn't ask to be born, but you're here nonetheless. It was a gift that you were given. Life. Freedom is a gift that you were given. And you might understand that it is your God-given right to be free, but it is also not your right to live here. It is not your right to have it for free. People will try to take it from you, and it is incumbent upon good people to continue keeping it free. You dig? Do you fully dig what I'm saying? This is the shit that changes worlds, not because it's coming from Mickey's mouth, because I'm nobody from nowhere, but because it's truth. I said it a minute ago. You can pound your chest and you can show me your cool AR with a suppressor, and you can tell me about how badass a shooter somebody is or isn't. You can tell me how many subscribers they have on their YouTube account or how many followers on Instagram. None of that stuff changes anything. What lies in your heart is what changes things, and what you do with that information that's in your heart. Does that burning spur you to do something, or does fear of somebody saying you shouldn't be doing this? You don't have what it takes. Who are you? You're nobody. You don't have the ability to affect change. What do you think the 56 men were told that sat down August 6, 1776? That's the date they signed the Declaration, by the way. August 6, 1776, when those dudes sat down around each other in that hall, and they pulled out those quills to write. Do you think people didn't tell them you're off your rocker? Do you think people didn't tell them you got no business doing this? You can't go against the crown. You guys can't affect this level of change. Excuse me, that's gross. I'm sure many people told them that, but you know what they did? They did it anyway. They did what they believed in. They did what was right. I bet you there were some tears shed. I bet you when guys like Patrick Henry stood up and spoke and pounded their fists and shook their fists as they spoke to those people, I bet you tears flowed down men's faces. Not only because they knew what they were doing was the right and just thing, but they knew, I'm signing my death warrant. I'm signing my ticket to go to the British gallows. I guarantee there were some women that sobbed when they knew their husbands put their pen to paper, some children, some dads that said, hey, today, kids, we're going to go sign this declaration. And there's a good probability that your dad's going to get hung for it. No, Dad, don't do it. Yeah, kid, I don't want to, but I have to because it's the right thing. Do you feel me? Do you feel what I'm saying? Does it start to fucking yank on you a little bit to hear it? Or is it just words? Is it just words? When I challenge you to educate yourself on these topics and our friend wrote, shall not be infringed, those are just words, friends. They are just words until we attach meaning to them. And when we attach meaning, we attach actions to that meaning. And that action requires you to protect and promote and proliferate liberty. It is done through action. So, I challenge you. I challenge you to do something. I challenge you to dig a little bit deeper. I challenge you that before you attack somebody else for maybe not being this free organization or free person like you think they should be, maybe look at history. Maybe understand that not everything is always as it seems. And maybe understand that if you have not gone out and carried that load, if you have not gone out and stood in that gap to protect the Constitution and protect the citizens of this nation from that infringement on liberty, maybe you shouldn't be the one talking. Have you thought about that? Food for thought, guys. Be well.